She said, "Our schedule's pretty heavy for the next couple of months, and then come September, we'll have to see about school for you. But we'll be doing a lot of traveling right around Michigan, so I hope you don't mind long car trips." "No, ma'am." She said, "That's great, Bud. Something tells me you are a godsend to us. You keep that in mind all of the time, okay?" "Yes, ma'am." Then she did something that made me feel strange. She stood up, grabbed both my arms, and looked right hard in my face, just like Mama used to. She said, "Really, Bud, I want you to always keep that in mind. This might get hard for you some of the time, and I don't always travel with the band, so I don't want you to forget what I'm telling you." I said, "No, ma'am, I won't." Steady Eddie said, "Well, since you're going to be part of the family, there's some things we've got to talk about. Now, I've noticed the tight grip you keep on that old suitcase of yours. I need to know how attached to it you are. I carry it with me everywhere I go, 'cause all my things are in there." I wasn't sure if I liked the way this talk was going. Steady Eddie said, "That's what I need to know. Are you attached to the suitcase, or is it the things inside that are important?" I'd never thought about that before. I'd always thought of the suitcase and the things inside together. I said, "The things I got from my mother are the most important." He said, "Good, because if you're going to be traveling with us, it just wouldn't look too copacetic for you to be carrying that ratty old bag." He reached under the kitchen table and pulled out one of those funny-looking suitcases that the band kept all their instruments in. This one looked like a baby one to his. He put it on the table, opened it, and said, "Since you're going to be traveling with Herman E. Calloway and the Worthy Swarthies, which is known far and wide as a very classy band, it's only fitting that you quit carrying your things in that cardboard suitcase. This is my old alto saxophone case. I've been hanging on to it for 3 years now, ever since the horn got stole right off the stage in Saginaw. But it doesn't look like I'm ever going to get it back, so I figured you might as well keep your mama's things in it." "Wow. Thank you, Steady Eddie." I pulled my new case over to me. The inside of it had a great big dent where Steady Eddie's saxophone used to go. Now there wasn't anything in it but a little raggedy pink towel. The case had some soft, smooth black stuff all over the inside of it. It covered everything, even the dent. There was a real old smell that came out of it, too, like dried-up slobber and something dead. It smelled great. The back kitchen door opened, and I thought Herman E. Calloway was coming back in to ruin everybody's fun, but it was the rest of the band. Everybody said hello, poured themselves some coffee, then sat down at the table. Doodlebug said, "I see Mr. C's got Lou Dean's carburetor tore down again. Anything wrong?" Miss Thomas said, "There's lots wrong, but not with that car." They all laughed, so I joined in too. I patted my new case and said, "This here's my case now. I'm going to be going around with you." They smiled, and Dirty Deed said, "So we here. Glad to have you on board, partner." Steady Eddie said, "I was just about to tell him some of the things Herman E. Calloway requires of anybody in his band." The Thug said, "Otherwise known as Herman E. Calloway's rules to guarantee you have no female companionship, no alcohol, and no fun at all. Rule number 1, practice 2 hours a day." Mr. Jimmy said, "That's a good one." Steady Eddie said, "So I got you this, Bud." Steady Eddie had another present for me. This was a long, brown, skinny wooden flute. I was going to have to learn music. He said, "It's called a recorder. Once you've developed a little wind and some tone and an embouchure, we'll move on to something a little more complicated." These must have been more of those Grand Rapids words, 'cause they sure weren't like any American talk I ever heard before. I said, "Thank you." Steady Eddie said, "Don't thank me until you've been through a couple of hours of blowing scales. We'll see if you're still grateful then." The Thug said, "Now, all that's left is to give little stuff here a name." Miss Thomas said, "You know, I don't like the way Ludine's been sounding. I think I'm going to go check the air in the trunk." She picked her coffee up and started to leave the kitchen. Doodlebug said, "You don't have to leave, Miss Thomas." "Darling, I know that. It's just that this is one of those man things that you all think is so mysterious and special that I have absolutely no interest in. The only thing I can hope is that the process has improved since you four were given your names." Then she left the room. As soon as she was gone, Steady Eddie told me, "Hand me your axe and stand up, bud." I was starting to catch on to this Grand Rapids talk. I remembered that an axe was an instrument. I handed Steady my recorder and stood up in front of him. He said, She was right. This is mysterious and special. So that grin's got to go, brother." I tried to tie down my smile. Steady said, "Mr. Jimmy, you're the senior musician here. Would you proceed?" Mr. Jimmy said, "Gentlemen, the floor's open for names for the newest member of the band, Bud, not Buddy." They started acting like they were in school. The thug raised his hand and Mr. Jimmy pointed at him. Thug said, "Mr. Chairman, in light of the boys' performance last night at the Sweet Pea, I nominate the name Waterworks Willie." Shucks, I was hoping they'd forgot about that. Mr. Jimmy said, "You're out of order, Douglas." Steady raised his hand. "Mr. Chairman, this boy's obviously going to be a musician. He slept until 12:30 today, so I propose that we call him Sleepy." Mr. Jimmy said, "The name Sleepy is before the board. Any comments?" Dirty Deed said, "Too simple. I think we need something that lets folks know about how slim the boy is." Doodlebug said, "How about the Bone?" Steady said, "Not enough class. He needs something so people will know right off that the boy's got class." Mr. Jimmy said, "How do you say bone in French? French always makes things sound a lot classier." The thug said, "That's easy. Bone in French is la bone." Doodlebug said, "La bone? No, it don't have a ring to it." Steady Eddie said, "I got it. We'll compromise. How about Sleepy Le Bone?" I couldn't tie the smile down anymore. That was about the best name I'd ever heard in my life. Mr. Jimmy said, "Let me try it out. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming out on this cold November night. This night that will live in history. This night that for the first time on any stage anywhere, you have listened to the smooth saxophonical musings of that prodigy of the reed, Mr. Sleepy Le Bone." The whole crowd broke out clapping. The thug said, "What can I say but bang?" Dirty Deed said, "You nailed him." Doodlebug said, "That is definitely smooth." Steady said, "My man." Mr. Jimmy said, "Kneel down, young man." I got down on one knee. Mr. Jimmy tapped me on the head 3 times with my recorder and said, "Arise and welcome to the band, Mr. Sleepy Le Bone." I got off my knee and looked at my bandmates. Sleepy Le Bone. Shucks. That was the kind of name that was enough to make you forget folks had ever called you Buddy, or even Clarence. That was the kind of name that was enough to make you practice 4 hours every day just so you could live up to it.